Being a part of a world-famous band doesn't always mean lifelong fame. Some musicians, after stepping away from the spotlight, chose to live quieter lives, while others simply faded into obscurity. Let's take a look at 10 musicians who left their iconic bands and then seemingly vanished from the music scene. Number 12. The Beatles' Rooftop Concert, 1969. Back to where you once belonged. It was an ordinary January day when the Beatles surprised the world with their final live performance on the rooftop of Apple Corps in London. With no official announcement, they took the city by storm, playing classics like Don't Let Me Down and Get Back. Don't let me down! It was a short, unplanned goodbye that still resonates as one of the most iconic moments in music. Number 11, Pink Floyd's The Wall Tour, 1980. Few concerts were as visually and sonically ambitious as Pink Floyd's The Wall Tour. The band performed the album in its entirety, complete with a massive wall being built on stage, only to be torn down by the end. It was more than a concert. It was a multimedia experience that pushed the boundaries of what a live show could be. Number 10, Nirvana at Reading Festival, 1992. Coming off the massive success of Nevermind, Nirvana took the stage at Reading Festival and delivered what's often hailed as their best performance. Kurt Cobain, despite rumors of his health issues, opened the show in a wheelchair, mocking the media. I'm so happy 'cause today I found my... Their raw, powerful set cemented Nirvana's place as the voice of a generation. Number 09, Queen at Live Aid, 1985. Few performances can match the sheer power and brilliance of Queen at Live Aid. With Freddie Mercury commanding the stage at Wembley Stadium, Queen delivered a 20-minute set that became legendary. Songs like Radio Gaga and We Are the Champions had the crowd in the palm of Mercury's hand, making this concert one of the greatest performances ever captured on film. Number 08, Budgie. Hailing from Wales, Budgie was a pioneering heavy metal band that flew under the radar while influencing some of the biggest names in rock, including Metallica. Their albums like Bandolier and In for the Kill were filled with thunderous riffs and high-pitched vocals, yet they never broke into the mainstream. Despite a string of solid albums in the 1970s, they remain one of the most underrated bands of the era. Their legacy more whispered than shouted. Number 07, The Sweet. With hits like Ballroom Blitz and Fox on the Run, The Sweet helped define the glam rock era. Their flashy outfits and catchy tunes made them pop culture icons for a brief period, but as the 1970s wore on, their star began to fade. Internal struggles and the changing musical landscape left them behind. And while they remain beloved by glam rock fans, they don't receive the same recognition today as other bands from that era. Number 06, The Strawbs. Originally formed as a bluegrass band, the Strawbs evolved into one of the more eclectic progressive rock acts of the 1970s. With albums like Grave New World and Hero and Heroine, they experimented with folk, rock, and symphonic elements. Despite a devoted following and critical acclaim, they never reached the commercial success of contemporaries like Genesis or Yes. Today, they remain a hidden gem for prog rock enthusiasts. Number 05, The Cowsills. I knew I had to say hello, hello, hello. The real-life inspiration for the Partridge Family, the Cowsills produced bubblegum pop hits like The Rain, The Park, and Other Things. For a brief moment in the late 1960s and early 1970s, suddenly the sun broke free. See the sun. They were radio darlings, But as rock grew heavier and more experimental, their family-friendly sound faded into the background. Today, they're more of a nostalgic footnote than a band remembered for their musical contribution. Number 04. Budgie. Hailing from Wales, Budgie was a pioneering heavy metal band that flew under the radar while influencing some of the biggest names in rock, including Metallica. Their albums like Bandolier and In for the Kill were filled with thunderous riffs and high-pitched vocals, yet they never broke into the mainstream. Despite a string of solid albums in the 1970s, they remain one of the most underrated bands of the era, their legacy more whispered than shouted. Number 03. Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd. Syd Barrett was one of the founding members of Pink Floyd, playing a pivotal role in the band's early psychedelic sound. However, after a brief but influential stint with the band, Barrett's erratic behavior, partly due to drug use, led to his departure in 1968. After releasing 2 solo albums, Barrett withdrew from the music industry entirely and spent the rest of his life living in seclusion. His legacy remains. But after his time with Pink Floyd, Barrett's presence in the music world all but disappeared. Number 02. Peter Green, Fleetwood Mac. Peter Green was the driving force behind Fleetwood Mac's early blues era, responsible for hits like Albatross and Black Magic Woman. However, his struggles with mental health and drug use led to his departure from the band in 1970. Green briefly returned to music in the late 70s and again in the 2000s. But for most of his life, he lived away from the public eye, leaving behind a legendary yet enigmatic legacy. Number 1. Bill Wyman, The Rolling Stones. Bill Wyman was the bassist for the Rolling Stones from their early days in the 60s until his departure in 1993. Unlike many of his bandmates, Wyman shied away from the wild rock star lifestyle, and after leaving the Stones, he chose a quieter life. He formed his own band, Bill Wyman's Rhythm Kings, but mostly remained out of the limelight, preferring a more private existence away from the intensity of the Rolling Stones fame. Fame is fickle. One minute you're on top of the charts, the next you're fading into history. If you're craving more hidden gems from the past, don't forget to check out our other videos and dive deeper into the lost echoes of music history. See you there!